Good evening, welcome. My name is Obinako, welcome. I want to share with you my thoughts on real estate in Ghana, the real estate business in Ghana, and some few thoughts that I have seen. Mainly, we are into construction business, and every now and then we happen to see, you know, the the activities that people go through, the passion, the decisions, the financial decisions that people, thank you, David, go through, and the kind of allegiance and the kind of attachment we all have to owning houses and how we were brought up, to see houses. If somebody has a house, it's a major thing. It's a major thing, and if you're rich, at least most people will live their lives to own houses. And no matter how much money that you think you have, if you have a house, it's a major thing for people. If you don't have a house, we don't think that you are rich. And so, the way the real estate market maybe is arranged and packaged, and it's been, practiced and handled in the so-called established economies, I think may be a bit different from ours. And so, of course, it's just copy and paste. And so, we built for this company, a company that we built a lot of their units. They got us into major, huge trouble because we were ignorant, and we took a lot of their project. And we had big financial issues, and it was the time that the economy was also in a very critical situation, 2013, 2014 there. And these are some of the lessons that I learned about the real estate market. Having come close, because we were not into that, we just take contracts from institutions and we build, we don't own them. And so we got close to these companies. We thought that they had a lot of money. After a while, I got to understand that, you know, we were building apartment and renovating or continuing some of their stored works. And real estate takes a lot of money. And in the market, in countries where, they've been able to separate the sessions, um, you have to have, let's say, the real estate developer who will go and look for his money or her money. And then maybe they will look for a contractor. They have their concept, then they will look for a contractor to build for them. And then maybe how they are doing somewhere, they have people who will help them to market the houses. And then you get people who will have money to come and buy. Maybe they will go to their banks for loan and things like that. The way I see ours is that most of our people that we call real estate people, whether they are developers or investors, I don't think we have a lot of clarity. A lot of them will be the ones getting the money. They will do the construction themselves and they will sell the houses themselves. It's all mess up like that. And if you look in our country, most people, the big businesses, the big business people, as we call them, the moment they have some kind of money, they will start a bank or they will start real estate companies. Real estate eats money. It destroys vision. It will kill you if you don't know what you're doing. And that's why most companies in our country are financially trapped and have gone through a lot of cash flow issues because they just copy and paste what the other people are doing in their country. The thing is that there is a major difference because here you must be able to produce houses or construct houses that majority of the people would have money to buy. Now, if you know, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom house in an average area, they are costing them in dollars. That's the funny thing. And it's around $100,000, $150,000. Now, how many people in our country, let's face it, qualify to get $100,000 easily to come and pay you this kind of business? So you by the time that you finish building this house, and usually it will not take you less than 2 years to build some of these houses if you're doing a good job, and if you're building them, let's say you're building maybe 100 unit houses or things like that. It takes a while for you to build the houses and take care of all the external things that they do there. That is if they even do them well, so, and because the contractor or the so-called developer most often do not have the money, they don't have the money, they will go to the banks to take a loan. And our banks, the loan is about 30, 40, 50% a year. And so if let's say your budget for constructing 2 3 bedroom houses maybe 200,000 Ghana cedis, maybe the land included, but because you borrowed around 30, 40% from this market, the contractor or the what we call the developer, and you're going to build, let's say, in 2 years. So 1 year, if it's 30%, 2 years, let's say it's flat, it's going to about 70% or something like that. Now, if the guy is using 200,000 to build, technically, by the time he finishes building this house, that house is about 400,000. 400,000 because he's borrowing at a very high cost. Now he has to sell the house to make profit because that's why he's in business. So a house that will cost that much because of the funding, because of the financing, he has to probably look at selling that house around 600,000 or 500,000, something like that. If he's greedy, he will go up. Now, the more he pushes the selling price of these houses up, the more he's cutting majority of the people who really need houses to live in. And so you see that most of our people, the way the market is, would want to go and buy a land in some remote area. Maybe, they say that they are saving. So you have all kind of people selling houses to our people. And they give them all kind of packages. So come and pay 10 maybe 100 Ghana for the next 5 years to own a house, a land, which is maybe 10,000 something. So they have a target and they have all kind of stories that they tell people. And if you go out, if you were doing a lot of statistics or studies on this, people have terrible stories as to the kind of experiences they have having gone through or they've been through, having gone for this kind of real estate arrangement. And so they go there, they keep paying, then half the time they will go and the land has been pushed or sold to another person. There's all kind of shady deals involved because they cannot go and buy the one that they are selling. They don't even qualify. And that is about 60 to 70% of our population. And so when the politicians are talking about housing deficit, it's rare. If you look for, let's say, if you're looking for 2 bedroom house to rent, or even single room, what they call single room self-contained with the water and those things, it's still much expensive. Why? Because the market is not regulated, and then the capacity, because real estate in most countries, they thrive on 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 business. When the economy is good, real estate is good to the people who have the money to buy. If people don't have jobs, if people don't have well-paying jobs, and you say that you are building, who are you building for? Who to buy? Why interest rate is high? I thought the Bank of Ghana policy rate. No, I'm just talking about over history. Yes, Bank of Ghana may be doing well, but I'm not talking really about this. I'm tracking the history, but it's still very high. I don't think the banks are lending, around 10% now. Their lending is still very high, 20 something percent, and still expensive. If you have 200,000, let's say if you have 200,000 on economy, and how many people qualify for 200,000? And most of us, maybe we are paid 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. You can't use all of that to go and borrow money to buy a house or to build a house. So I'm talking of those who are in business in these areas. I'm talking of those who are in business in these areas, the construction companies, or you as an individual, you're thinking of building or going into real estate as a business. There are things that you must understand, because from the construction point of view, what I've seen is that most people have killed their dreams. And if you see a lot of the so-called investors that are bringing money in our real estate are not targeting where we really need help. They are building around airport, cantonments, East Legon, those are the areas that you're building. Now, you and I know that those are not the areas that you build to help majority of our people. So you may see a lot of cranes all over, but those houses are really not for Ghanaians. They're not for us. The market target for these so-called real estate developers in our country is for maybe, I don't know, maybe expatriate or maybe some other West African or African citizens. Not necessarily my sister who is a seamstress or my cousin who is a teacher. Those categories of people, they are the majority. And so if there is really an industry, which there is, how do we look at making provision for such people? They may not be able to even buy over time houses around 100,000. It's tough. And so when you are going into it as a business, you must understand that it's not just profit. You must have some kind of heart to understand the dynamics, because that's why majority of the so-called real estate companies, as a matter of fact, most of these companies that are struggling, majority of them entered into the so-called real estate that we have, because every one of them was trying to build houses to sell. Now the point is, who were they trying to sell to? To what price? If you're selling a house around $200,000, the fact is that you will not get people like me. And there are a lot of people who are not making $100,000. If he has a job, he's being paid maybe 2,000 cedis. And those are the majority of the people, except the politicians or some other, people who have all kind of ways of making money. And they are not the majority. And you cannot build your business with the number of the so-called real estate companies that we have in our country. It will be choked. And so you will see, if you interview most of these real estate companies, you see that a lot of them have had terrible times. Terrible times in terms of cash flow issues, in terms of people not having money to pay them. And our interaction with this company that we work with, which push us into a lot of trouble, is that they thought that they could produce those houses cheaper than what was on the market. And they were pricing in dollar. That's another thing that I don't understand. You are building in Ghana with sand, block. Yes, you import some of the finishing, I agree. But you're quoting in dollar. And you know that our dollar is not stable. So anytime the dollar moves, the seller is shortchanged. You have agreed that, okay, I will pay you this. I'm selling this house $100,000. Now the dollar was maybe 3.5. The next minute the dollar goes to 4. The person's salary is still being paid in cedis. So the person will never be able to pay. And this is what really killed this company that we work with. No, they are not looking for us. They are looking for people with a lot of money. They are not looking for people like us. If I'm making thousands in this, which mortgage house will give me money? They don't care. They will make you maybe pay maybe 10-20% like that. They're not targeting us. The houses, listen, the so-called real estate companies that we have here are not building for the 70 to 80%. They are not building for the teachers. They are not building for the nurses. They are not building for the policemen. They are not building for the cocoa farmer. They are not building for the guy with a kiosk. No, they are not building for us. If you are selling a house around $100,000, a teacher cannot afford. That's a fact. The civil servant, if he can afford, he has his ways and means. So I don't know who they build for. The people working in the insurance company and the banks, how much? And if you're costing in dollar, how many people? Because the people who work in a bank, the fact is that a lot of the bank people may, because they are workers in the bank, they may reduce the interest rate for them. But if they are giving commercial rate, majority of us cannot qualify. And so you will see that the people who say that they are in real estate business, if they are honest, they are going through a lot of terrible times. And they've been a lot of, maybe the economy is trying to take, maybe I don't know. But if you compare it with other areas that have been able to structure the real estate, what we have here, we call it real estate companies. Well, let's say, I don't know. I don't know. So majority of the people who have money will try to go and build their 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, and they will take about 4, 5, 10 years to build, because they cannot access the so-called complete house that they have done, or they may not be able to get the so-called mortgage, that they have done. So the passion to own house is heavy. Yes, but you do that when you have proper credit. and when people have jobs that they can pay. But here, if you don't, how are you the teacher? How much do they? Too bad. Government must start to introducing policies. Hopefully, the government may try to introduce policy. I don't know. Me, I'm not a politician, but I'm really talking about general talks in terms of being a construction. We have had little knowledge about construction, and knowing that there is a big need for this kind of thing. People need houses, but the funding is a problem. The funding in terms of people having access to credit to build houses that majority of the people can buy. It's tough. There's a missing link. The people must have jobs, they must be paid well, and the houses must be constructed in the bracket that majority of the people can afford. And as a matter of fact, as it stands now, we are not there. We are not there. Then all the noise that we hear about real estate is just about 10-20%, maybe far less than that. So if you go to the airport and you see the crane, it's not the person from a village who is going to buy that house. It's not true. They are not buying those. Some of those houses, some of them are millions, $500,000, $2 million, $3 million. Majority of the people cannot buy. And so those are not changing the dynamics in terms of housing, in terms of real estate in a country. So most people will still continue to build, bring the mason, bring the capital themselves, buy 10 blocks, keep it there, buy another blocks, keep it there, buy 2 cement, keep it there, and they struggle to build. By the time they are through with the building, the engineering is not good. And, 3 years, 4 years down the line, they have to spend another 20-30% to even maintain it because the technology was shortchanged. And as usual, because we were brought up to believe that a man must have a house, and if you have a house, it means that you have money, which is not necessarily true. Majority of the so-called business people that we have here are not thinking of trying to do something to bring it down. Maybe it's not doable. I don't know. Maybe based on the kind of factors that are involved. Because if the guy is borrowing at a very high cost, he cannot sell a house at Ghana 50,000 Ghana cedis. It's very tough. You cannot. The technology that we have now, you can build and sell at profit 50,000. It's almost very tough because the land alone, if you're buying the land around, say, Sapiman, maybe 10,000 or 15,000. So how much of 50,000 is left? How much of 50,000 is left? So if you take 15,000 from it, you are left with, let's say, 35,000. How much magic can you do to build a house and make a profit? That majority, because the majority of the people, really, from where I sit, people who are honest, who can buy something, a house, with the money that they make. If I'm making 500 Ghana cedis or 1,000 cedis, the house that is very much comfortable for me to buy and maybe pay it if there was any proper mortgage, whatever mortgage they call it at all, for let's say the next 10 years, you know the amount. It may not be that much. Majority of the people are not receiving 10,000. So the so-called mortgage, the real estate people, they are not building for us. They are building for themselves. And that's why a lot of them are struggling, because they could not understand. Because you should build for majority of the people. That's where the need is. Even if you're building to rent, you should build targeting. Because if you're renting 2-bedroom, $1,000 a month, you're killing your vision. Because when somebody moves out, it takes a long time for another person to get it, because the guy who has just finished national service working with an insurance company cannot pay $2,000 a month. And the thing about it is that they even take 12 to 24 months advance. How do you raise $2,000 in those nice areas? So let's say if you go to Achimota area, or maybe you go to Asokwa area, maybe they will say 500 cedis, and they are taking 2 years. How? So it's insanity. There's a huge demand for it. And we all have to look at how we can look through to be able to bring things down to the majority of our people. Or then it's not sustainable. It's the same thing that happened to the banks, because they thought they could take advantage of the people. So they were lending to us at a very high rate, thinking that they were making profit. But money, you cannot deceive money. to always settle at the fair ground. So when you are lending to the businessman or the entrepreneur who is struggling always, and you are taking 5% a month, what you're doing is that you are cheating yourself as a lender. So maybe 5 years you'll be making, because they are killing themselves. It's not doable. It should be fair. So if you are interested in building real estate, if you're interested in getting into this kind of business, you must understand that it should not be driven by greed. Even your rent should be fair. If you have to cut down in terms of the finishing, bring a lot of things down so that you can rent the house in a bracket that majority of the people can afford. In that case, there's always the occupancy rate is very high, because in that case, most people can come and rent. I remember where we used to rent. The woman never didn't over time. She didn't even raise it that much. Why? Because she was kind. So every time that anybody moved out of that, there was always somebody ready to take the place. She was not greedy. She gave herself some time. Now, majority of these other landlords, because the agents, the thing about it is that the agents are also not organized. So they you call, you sit at the front of the taxi, and they go and take you 2 years, 500 a month. And when you move, nobody wants to come. So if they also built with credit, with loan, you see that, and most of them did not build with their loans anyway. They had all kind of ways to build their houses. So think through, it's a very scattered area that is not really regimented, and it's not really being managed well. The so-called real estate is very much fragmented, and there's business there. I see that there is business there, because the people that we built for, people were coming to buy those houses, but it was woefully mismanaged. So they created serious debt, serious debt. They put a lot of companies like us in bad things for years. Why? Because they didn't think through the model. They didn't think through it, and then the economy was also not good. And so I don't think you should be looking at building, if you want to go into real estate in Ghana. I don't think you should be looking at building and selling around $200,000, $500,000 kind of houses. You're wasting your time. You should bring it down. Bring it down. Look at the majority of the market. I don't know what you're going to do to produce houses that you can sell around 150,000 cedis with a profit. I don't know. But if you have good funding from another country or somewhere, where maybe they are charging very little money, and you can just peg your profit around 10-20%, and get good contractors like ourselves to come in and help you to build, so that you separate yourself from the construction. You get good product, but separate yourself from the construction. Get people who can build well for you at a very cheap price. If you have good cash flow, and if you're paying your certificates raise, any good contractor would want to charge very little, because they know that anytime that they raise the certificate, you will be able to pay. Streamline it well a bit, and then target the kind of people who can at least maneuver to get 100,000, 150,000 over 10 years, things like that. Because people want to own houses. That one you cannot take from our people. We want to own houses. The problem is that because we don't have the funding, the mortgage we may not qualify, or they may not even exist. We would want to do it bit by bit, and in so doing, majority of our people would take 10 years to finish one house, 15 years to finish one house, if they are honest. If they are politicians and the other ones, they have their ways and means of getting money. So they can come here and within 2 years, they finish the house. But they are not people that you can build a business with, because they're not the majority. So you can only get into this business, even if it's renting, looking at people, targeting the markets, the market area with people who have stable income. And you look at it, even if it's renting, instead of you building 3-bedroom house, 4-bedroom house that nobody wants, can you build 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, single self-contained? You are charging around 200 Ghana cedis, 150 Ghana cedis. You're targeting young women and women, single mother, things like that. And you look at how to give it a very professional management. That way you can win. But the other people that you hear their news, a lot of them are struggling. Because they don't tally. They went to borrow at a very high rate, and then they built at a very high cost, and they're selling people who don't have money or who don't even have access to, you know, credit to buy those houses because they may not qualify or the credit may be so much high. So look at that because there's a market for it. To my mind, there's a market for it. But then the attention has not been to the majority of our people where it can change and improve the lives of our people. No. So they bring all this and they tell you they are building this city, they are building this city. By the time they finish, none of us can go and buy. There's still a very few people who own houses already, you know. So if you are selling a house, some people can even say, "Oh no, I'm going to use my money to build, and after that, I'm going to sell." If you use your money to build and you're going to sell it around 200, $300,000, it's going to be very tough, especially when you have to finish the whole project are not waiting to complete the house before they sell. Before they even design, they are looking for buyers because they understand how the market is. And but I think you should structure your business so that you can get a lot of people in that kind of category. And most of us don't qualify. So think through because a lot of people have wasted all their money because they went into what they call real estate. And the dynamics are different in our country. The dynamics are different in our country. So, but you know, there could be one or two people who have been able to carve out a model which is working. So before you even start, I think that look at a model that will work. Don't just jump into it because, or maybe you should look at people who are not living here or something like that. But I am not interested in that. I'm interested in the majority of our people taking the trotro, taking the taxi, working as teachers, nurses, you know, people like that who may be earning 2,000 or less. What kind of real estate business can be carved, you know, can be structured for such people? And I think that's where, if you are thinking and planning, that's where I think that's where the magic is. It's not the people who are making 50,000 a month. Those people are not many because the real estate all over the world, the real estate is highly dependent on people with money or when people have jobs. So if you're not creating, if you have a lot of unemployment, people need a place to sleep, but they may not be able to pay. So you may have to become a charity. So study the market well, look through. The other day somebody called me and was saying that he wanted to do something in his area, you know, because he wants to develop an estate or something like that. I said, I mean, I don't know much about that area. I don't know much about what you want, but you should look at, if you want it as a business, you should look at, do the people have the money to buy? Or the people who have money, do you think they will come to that area to buy those houses? You should look at that. Because sometimes you may build a very nice house, but the people who can buy that house may not want that area, which happens a lot. But because you had money and you thought that once I finish building it, somebody will come and buy. And don't listen to those agents who, because they will get commission. Massa, we'll see where you are better. And you finish. You didn't even have the money to do that. You borrowed it. And the next minute, you have crashed everything. And a lot of them even stop along the way because they lost the money. They lost the money along the line. So, or they're short of cash. And we build for people. And the very successful developers, that the few of them that we tend to work with, you can see that they had the money or they had the funding, they had the structure, they understood their market, the people that they were going to build for, and then they built for them. Now, the unfortunate thing is that they are not targeting the very low people or the middle people. They are targeting very high people. So those houses are selling at a very high price. And they don't change anything in terms of the lifestyle of the majority of our people. So people love to take time to build. In that way, it's better. But I think that you never create wealth by locking all your money to building a house. You don't create wealth, you just become happy owning a house. But you don't create wealth by building a house to live in. Maybe you can leave it for your children, but in terms, because if I have 300,000 and I put it in a house because I'm tired of renting, that's what people tell us. You can pay rent every time. Meanwhile, the rent that you're paying, it was 200 Ghana cedis a month. Even if it's 30 years, it's still not much. But I want to build a house, so I use the 200,000 to go and build a house, or 300,000 to build a house. If you wanted to create wealth, that 200,000 should not go to build a house. It should go to expand that business. It should be an investment. But the way we are, if you build a house, your mother will be very happy, your sisters will be very happy, your friends will be very happy that you built a house. So we would want to make them happy and entertain ourselves. And that's why most people, by the time they finish building, everything is gone, because there's not much understanding in terms of how people grow their capital or their money. So it costs a lot to build a house. So if you're going to a real estate business, it is going to cost you money, and it will take you maybe 1 year, 2 years to complete one house. And all the time that you're building, there's no money. In some other places, they go and engineer the money. They go for the funding, the structure, credit line. They are able to build, and usually they have the people who have the capital to buy those houses. The banks may give them loans to buy. Here, you may not have proper funding for the so-called real estate business that you want to do. And when you are building too, you want to be the contractor yourself. So by the time you finish, you have overspent, because you cannot cheat in real estate, in building, especially construction. Then when you finish, the few people who can buy may not even have the money to buy, because your costing is so high. Why? Because the cost of construction is high, and the cost of funding is also high. So think through. Think through if you want to go into such businesses. Think through. And if you so have a good strategy, don't go be the contractor. Construction is technical. It's technical. There are people who have been doing this, who have gone to school to learn it. There are people who are doing that business. If it's a business that you're building, get somebody, pay them, let them do good work for you. It will save you a lot of time. It will help you to save your money. And you should have a proper model in terms of you wanting to build to sell. If you want to rent, look at the area that you're building the house. Look at the people who would want to rent there, and then peg your price accordingly. There are some places that you say that you have finished building and you're charging $2,000, nobody will come, because the place does not deserve that. The people who can pay 2,000, they never want that place. All right, so so think through, because most people just jump on anything because they have heard that, oh, we see that now better. Then you go and build, and you lock your money. You stop. And usually, when they have a contract or when they have other business doing well, then they start to siphon the money from that business which is doing well, and they lock them in a real estate something. And by the time that you see it, the business that was doing well does not have any money now. That business is hemorrhaging, and the real estate is stuck, and they create disaster. Then they go to borrow another money from the bank, and everything is jammed. Then they become so much frustrated. They can't sell those houses. The business is gone. The banks are after them, and the loan is running, and they don't know what to do. Then you see them running for prayers. It's because there was not a lot of analysis that was done. So think through. If you are in another country and you think that because you understand real estate there, yeah, it's different though. Come and study it. And you should have a target where you want to build it. Who are the people you want to build for? Do they want to live where you want to live? Do you have the expertise to, not even to build? After building, do you have the expertise to market those houses? Is your pricing well? Because the people that we work for who push us in trouble, we saw that their pricing was wrong. They were selling so cheaply. because they were over ambitious. They thought that they could finish everything within 6 months, and then nothing went as planned, and it created huge debt, which took them years. I don't know if they'll be able to overcome it. So most of the companies that are in troubles now, you hear that a lot of them have a lot of money locked in the so-called real estate, because in our country, if anybody gets money at all, a little money at all, then they have to go and start a real estate development company. And who are they building for? I don't know. Because until the people are having better pay, better jobs, they will not come and buy those houses. They will not have the money to buy those houses. And the mortgage houses may not give them, those kind of people, a lot of money. So look at the people you want to build for. You think that you want to build for the people who are living outside the country, you must have a better marketing structure to build. Don't just go and borrow money, go and build the houses, and then later wait for somebody to come and buy. It will not happen like that. By the time you finish, nobody wants to come and buy. Maybe you get one or two. You build 100 houses and you just get one or two people to come and buy one or two. That's it. The rest will be there. You may have to just rent them. And usually, if it's debt that you use, you have created trouble. And go around, talk to any real estate company or any finance house, because most of these savings and loan people and microfinance people and most of these banks chalked a lot of, they push a lot of money into real estate. And I was thinking, who are they building for? Who are they? Who are they going to build? Who are they going to buy? Where from them? Because people have the option to build their own houses bit by bit. So there is a chunk of the market which is going to build bit by bit, because they don't qualify for the mortgage. And the cost of the house that you think you're selling, it's scary. If you want to sell a house around $300,000, how many people can buy $300,000 if they are honest, if they are trustworthy, and if they are making the right money? How many people have $300,000 without mortgage? Even in the so-called developed market, how many people have 300,000? Just about 5% or so can easily pull out 300,000 in a well-established economy, at least. And our own $300,000 is a big deal for somebody to just come and buy a house like that. So if you are thinking of real estate company, think well. And if you have money, do your studies well, because we have gone through a lot of trouble with a lot of these guys. As a contractor, shared trouble, difficult situations, because they didn't do any calculation. And just as we were ignorant, we also went there, we saw them, and they would talk. Oh, we have money, we have investors coming in, we have this. And the little money that you had, you also go and put it in their project, not your project, or their project, thinking that once you get to this level, they'll pay you. And those became big trouble. So study it. Don't just play with it. It's a major thing. Housing, building properties, continue to suck money. They don't come out like that. And every money that you put in, it is hard for them to come out. And it can break your business, it can break you, it can break a lot of things. So study, make sure you have your numbers right. Or do it bit by bit. And make sure wherever you are building, you have a good plan. Because I think there are better ways that you can grow your capital. If you really don't know, don't go into building like that. Very few people really have been able to do that. And have been able to do it well. And especially if you're greedy, don't go in like that. It will kill you. If you're patient and liberal, and you can be forward-thinking, maybe you'll be more successful. But if you want quick cash, that is not one of the areas for you at all. It's not. It's the least area that if you want quick cash, you should look at it, because it's crazy. It's crazy, and it takes a lot of money. So if you have 100,000 somewhere, think through, have a better plan before you go into, especially those that you are building to sell. Those that you want to build to sell. If you want to build to rent, still look at the areas very well. And if you're building to rent, look at the area who you are going to build to rent to, and how you're going to cost them. Don't take people's words. Or don't say, "Oh, my friend did it, and he was very much." Every now and then you get people asking, "Oh, we have an uncompleted house here. If you can help us with some people to come and finish it, and then we will sell it or you rent it." And usually the project has been there for 2, 3, 4 years. So even if they put 300,000 in that money has stayed there for how many? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And a lot of people have become poor because of wrong decisions, especially in the real estate business. I think the government must come in. I think the government must build a lot of those houses. And I think we should also have a good way of getting better funding to build houses that are a bit cheap. And I think until a lot of our people are paid well, building very expensive houses and expecting people to come and buy will not work. You know, will not work. So until our people are paid well, where they can afford those houses, if you want to go into it, build houses that the people can afford. Can afford 100 Ghana, 200 Ghana, 500 Ghana, we can afford that. 1,000 Ghana, we can afford that. But if you are taking 2 years for that, you are cutting a lot of us out. So you have people who have houses demanding 2 years advance. It does not work. We are creating a lot of poverty for our people. Because the young man who is working, who is a carpenter, if you're asking 2 years advance for a rent of 100, he doesn't have that. You know, he doesn't have that. But if you were taking 2 months, and if he had to raise, let's say, if you're taking 100 Ghana a month for 2 years, that's about 2,400 or so. Now, that money can help that young man who's a carpenter. If you're taking 200, let's say you're taking 2 months advance, 200, he will have 2,000 to put in his business, and he will still be able to pay you every month. We don't understand that though. We want 2 years advance. And so the boy will go and work, bring you the 2 years advance, and his business will collapse. Will have nothing to grow his business. If it doesn't even collapse, we have nothing to grow it. So we are creating a lot of poverty just because we are taking a lot of advance from people who don't have. So if I'm coming to rent a house, and a very nice house, 3-bedroom house, and you're taking 1,000 cedis from me, and you want 2 years advance, that is 24,000. That 24,000, if you were to take 2 months, I could have 22,000, put it in a business, and I'll be able to trade with it and pay you your 1,000 every month. So we have created a system that is creating poverty, and that is killing a lot of businesses. And part of it is greed, because I've been able to build a house, I must take my rent. And you take your rent, it gets to a point nobody can afford to come and take that rent. And if you took loan, the people who gave you the loan, maybe they also charging 40%. So who are we deceiving? So the more I don't know who will take that challenge, but maybe the current government is trying to do something like that. And if they're able to do it and build a lot of apartments in most of these districts and regional capitals, it will help us. It will help us. It will help us to drop it. And maybe when people start to get better jobs, at least there will be some kind of prosperity somewhere. So if you somewhere and you're thinking of real estate business in Ghana, study it well, because you can lose your capital. You can store, you can put it there, and it will be choked forever. And even if you're able to build it, you can build a house and be calling people to come and buy. No, you don't finish a house and be calling people to come and buy. By the time you start to build it, somebody should be ready to buy, or you stop it. Because that's not the way to grow capital like that. It doesn't. Not the way the economy is. Not the way the economy is. So maybe if you're building for yourself, maybe. If you're building for yourself, maybe. But I think if you have very good heart and good management skill, the people, there is always somebody looking for 2 bedroom, single bedroom, 200 Ghana, 300 Ghana. That category, 500 Ghana, is always there. So I think that's where the market is. Or those who are building out cantonments, and me, I don't fancy those because we want quality improvement in the lifestyle of our people. And so I think that the attention should be there. The other people in between who have their money or a bit of money, they would want to do their own buildings. They will not, majority of them, even the guys who work in banks and stuff like that, the only reason they're able to come for mortgage is because the banks are reducing their interest rate for them. If they opt out of the bank, the interest rate becomes commercial. Most of them cannot afford 30%. He can afford. How much is he paid? So it's a market that is dangerous, and that's why just as the banks, I said it earlier, just as the banks, because they were greedy, and if you're greedy, it will affect you. You are not just going to get money like that. You're lending 40%, 30%. You're greedy, and if you're greedy, it will come back at you. So it should help the business people to you know take the loan, be able to build a business, pay you, and still have something left. If you're taking something like 40, 50% from anybody, they'll, after a while, they'll get wise because it's not sustainable. So the same with the real estate as well. You want people to come and pay $250,000 for you. How many of us can pay that? We don't have that. So look at the business well and structure where you think is possible, or just build your own house and leave the rest for us. Because to grow capital with a kind of real estate market, you don't grow capital like that because you're funding everything yourself, putting all the money in it. Whereas in other places, you just raise a percentage. The house is even completed. You said, I want to buy, let's say, 100 unit apartment. They said, okay, this is 2 million. Bring 10%, the rest will give you 20 years to pay. So if you're able to raise the 10% of 2 million is 200. You don't need to raise the 2 million, but here you may have to raise the 2 million. But you raise the 200,000 from there, and if you're able to fill it every month, they pay the rent, you do the deduction, you pay them, you have some. That is automatically business. You are not going to wait for 2 years to build that before you start to rent. Here, there's a construction period that you have to go and construct this. With a borrowed money, no, you will kill yourself. It doesn't work. With the borrowed money, you kill yourself. It's disastrous because construction time, they will not keep they'll still charge you their interest. 2 years, you're building. Who will give you money like that unless your brother is the president or something like that? Then they will come out and say all kind of things to you. So if I look at the part, majority of them, if you're thinking business, they don't make sense. They don't make sense. So think through. Maybe somebody knows something, maybe, but from where I sit, it's a business that you need a lot of thinking, a lot of calculation, and you must test the model bit by bit. The real estate kind of business in our country, you don't go and borrow money and build for 2 years before you start to take rent at 30-40% a month, a year, and think that you're going to succeed. It will not. They themselves may not even give you the money anyway. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. So if you are thinking of that, think well. Think well. Because a lot of companies are struggling because they just hate the word real estate. And maybe they were a financial company. The next minute they started to put everything there. And once the money goes into a building, it never comes back. It's locked forever. It's locked forever. So understand it. After all, majority of the people may not be able to afford what you're building anyway. So understand it. You have to have full grasp of this industry. And you cannot become the developer, the investor, the construction man, the marketer, the broker. People are doing everything. It's not really. That's why the failure, the rate of failing, is very high because it's not really structured and people don't even understand what they're doing anyway. So study it and understand it if you really want to do it and jump into it well. Because if you enter into it, then you must do it to grow the capital. The money that you're invested in it must grow. If nothing at all, it must grow. So you give yourself 10 years, you must grow. So you put 1 million in it. After 10 years, at least 1 million should become maybe 50 million or 20 million, something like that. But most people who put that kind of money in it, well, look, they don't. If they don't lose it, they don't even grow it that much. But it took them a lot of time for them to finish the project. And then when they finish it, nobody wanted to buy it, or nobody could rent it. Now, the money that they use was highly expensive. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So study it well. Don't let anybody talk you into a lot of things like that. They should know their numbers. They should know what they're doing. And there should be, maybe there's a strategy. But if you're really serious and you want him to do this, then study it well. Study it well. Study it well. So thank you very much for watching.